In today's tutorial, I'm going to teach you one exercise that when practiced correctly will help you achieve better damper pedal technique forever, which means that your playing is going to sound cleaner and more musical. This exercise can actually be adapted for any piece of music to help not only your pedaling in that piece, but your pedaling in every single piece that you learn from this point on. When I thought about an example that I could use to help teach you this exercise, this one immediately popped into my mind because it's a super popular piece and almost no one pedals it correctly when they first start out. All right, let's dive in. The first step is to know what beats you're pedaling on. And so you can see in this example, I actually wrote in the pedaling by hand because this edition did not have pedal marks. Now, depending on if your edition has pedal marks or not, you might need to write the pedaling in, or the pedaling might already be written in the music for you. You're gonna write in your counting so that you can see really clearly where the counts and the pedaling lines up. We're gonna pretend like this piece is in 4/4 time. So I'm starting on beat 4. My pedal is coming down, and then on beat 1, I'm pedaling up and down. On beat 4, I'm pedaling up and down. Again on beat 1, and then on beat 3, and on beat 4, and on beat 1. And the logic for this in this piece is that basically I'm pedaling with the harmonic changes or anytime the chord changes. Now, that might be slightly different in your piece. That's okay. You'll see as we get on into the exercise how you can adapt this for any piece. Step 2 is that you're going to pick a very small section of your piece. So for this piece, we're going to use the very first measure, including the pickup. Now, when you're picking your small section, I do mean really small. So one measure, or if there's a lot of notes in your piece or your piece is faster or more complex, you might even pick half of a measure or even one beat at a time. If you've been here on the channel and you've watched a lot of my videos, then you likely know what the post-it method is. And this would be a great opportunity to utilize the post-it method to help ensure that you focus in on a very small section of music. For those of you that don't know what the post-it method is, I'll link a video all about it in the description below. Now, step 3 is that you're going to put your foot on the pedal, but you are not actually playing any notes yet. The bulk of this exercise actually happens without playing anything on the piano. And that's because our goal here is to strengthen the relationship between the brain and the foot. Your foot needs to have clear directions about when it is pedaling in the music, not only in that moment, but in relation to everything else that's happening in the piece of music. And in order to strengthen that relationship between your brain and your foot, you have to count the beats out loud, and you have to tell your foot exactly when it is going up and down. So let me show you how this works. Looking at the pickup and the first measure of this piece, I'm going to pedal down on beat 4. So I'm going to count down 4 and 1. And on 1, but technically it's actually right after beat 1 because I want my pedal to be legato. I don't want there to be like a big space or a big gap in the sound when I'm pedaling. So technically right after beat 1, I'm going to say up, down, and 2, and I'm going to continue to count. And this is true for any piece of music that has legato pedaling. So anytime you want the pedal to be continuous and you don't want to hear a big gap in sound. And this is actually one of the most common mistakes that people make in their pedaling is they aren't clear on exactly when they're pedaling. And so people will anticipate the pedal mark and they'll pedal right before the beat. And what happens is you get this big gap of sound that makes everything sound very, very awkward. So I'm going to first show you what it would sound like if I were to pedal this wrong, and then I'm going to show you how to do the exercise the correct way. So if I anticipate the pedal coming on beat 1, what's going to happen is I'm going to go down on 4, 4, and I hear that big gap in sound. It's silence because the pedal isn't carrying the sound over. So let me do that again without me talking. Exaggerating a little bit, but you can hear how there's those little hiccups in the sound and it's super awkward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my foot on the pedal and I'm just going to count. I'm not going to play yet. Now here I can actually say 4 and 1 up, down, and 2 and 3 and 4 up, down, and, because we're just doing one measure. So let's do that again. 4 and 1 up, down, and 2 and 3 and 4 up, down, and. Now this exercise can feel a little bit awkward because you're just talking and moving your foot, but what you're doing again is strengthening that relationship between your head and your foot. You're giving your foot incredibly clear directions about when it is pedaling up, when it is pedaling down, and because you're counting out loud, you are also doing it in relationship to the structure of the entire piece. So if you practice this exercise, what starts to happen is your foot becomes a part of your muscle memory. And you drill this over and over again, and you do get to a point where you don't have to think so hard about it because your foot starts to memorize exactly when it's supposed to pedal. Now, the fourth step is that when you do this, you repeat at least 10 times in a row accurately. You cannot skip over this. You have to do it enough times in a row that it really works its way into your memory. If you play it once and then you make a mistake, and then you play it correctly and then you make a mistake, really what you're doing is giving completely mixed signals to your brain, and it's actually gonna make you worse. The process will get easier with every single measure that you do, because in a piece of music, every measure is not going to have different pedaling. You're gonna have a lot of patterns that are repeating themselves over and over throughout your piece. And also, after you practice each measure, you are going to get better at pedaling and at following the directions that your mouth is giving to your foot. Both things work in your favor. The first measure will feel very challenging, and as you go on, it will get easier and easier. Now, the fifth and final step is something that you're going to do only after you have achieved that consistent accuracy that we've talked about in step 4. And once you've done that, then you are going to do the exact same thing, but you'll actually play while you're counting out loud and while you are telling your foot when to go up and down. And again, you want to achieve consistent accuracy in this step. So get it to the point that you can do it correctly, and then do it at least 10 times in a row correctly so that it works its way into your muscle memory. Now, when you use this exercise and adapt it to any piece that you want, where you say up, down is going to change, but you're still going to be counting out loud and you're still going to be giving those very clear signals by saying up, down to your foot throughout the entire piece. As you do this, questions might come up. And inside Casual the Confident Piano Player, we dive deep on topics like this because members get to attend live classes twice a week and ask as many questions as they want. I can hear you play and give you personalized feedback on your pedaling in your piece of choice to ensure that you make progress every single week and you don't have those times where you're at a standstill and you're feeling frustrated. Right now, when I'm filming this video, enrollment is closed, but you can go ahead and use the link below to join the waitlist, and that way you'll be one of the first people notified when enrollment opens next time. And you can join that waitlist using the link right here.